Can we do that? Can we do that? Can everybody wave? Everybody wave. Come on. Where's it? Where? Come on. I want to see all the Annas. All the Annas. Where are they? All right,
Where's
guys.
Sheila? Come on.
There we go. All right, everyone. So everybody give them a round of applause. You guys can come off mute for a minute. All right, Pete, thank you so much for being here. And he is from way up north there in Minnesota. So take it away, my friend.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. Today you'll notice that I have, if I struggle to use my mouse, it's because I've got a slightly broken arm. So you get the backstory on the arm real quickly. If you would like to follow along with a 50-year-old that is trying to figure out how to ride a one-wheel PBA, Pint is your Instagram account of choice. But long story short, took a tip this weekend as I was practicing some more fine-tuned things after about 70 miles of riding with my wife, and it went sideways. So I now have a little broken arm that will heal itself here soon, hopefully, and we'll keep on trucking from there. But that's not why I'm here. Tonight, we are here, or this afternoon, we're here for a discussion around product values and kind of product culture. And ultimately, we'll cover the following things. I'll kind of talk about the product values that I espouse, kind of where they come from, why they matter, at least to me, and the impact that I've seen them have in the real world. We'll do an exercise to try to get your heads wrapped around them in a little bit more of a practical way. We'll talk about other ways that we can apply them, and then also talk about a couple other transformation related things. At a super high level, as far as an introduction goes for me, I try not to give you my whole career before just talking about stories. I work at a company called ThreeBridge. It's a consulting firm that helps with primarily staffing positions for anything from traditional solution development lifecycle project managers and BAs and those types of folks, to about 110 folks that are in my practice around product management and agile transformation work. And so I bring somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 years of experience, which is where all the gray and the beard came from, in the technology space, anything from business analysis and project and program management to product stuff over the last 7 years, with large scale transformations at a couple of big companies that we'll talk about in a little bit. And so this stuff came from those previous lives, essentially. And so those two places were essentially Target and US Bank. And just by the way, if anybody has stuff in the chat, I'm going to let it sit there. So I'll count on you, Steve, if there are questions, to just kind of stop me mid sentence is totally fine by me. The last 7 years, I would say, is when I kind of woke up professionally. I think the BA, project manager, program manager kind of stuff was all work that I could do, work that I could get rewarded for, etc. But it never really got my heart moving and never really got me excited, because it was always this role-based, you're in this box, don't step outside this box, and here's the enterprise process that you fit into, like a good gear fits in. And so for me, when I kind of stumbled into product, it was really an awakening for me, because it was the first time that I basically, number one, I recognized, oh, I've kind of done product before when I was much younger, earlier in my career, but I wouldn't have called it product back then. I was just working with a couple of developers, interactively building stuff that helped people. But when I kind of stumbled into it at Target, it was the first time that I could use the art major that I had, the creative problem-solving skills that I had, some of the technical skills that I had. All of a sudden, my entire set of skills was valuable for the first time, really, because when I tried to use stuff that was bigger than my job description before, you kind of got hit on the nose and told to go back into your job. And so the 6 years of work, four at Target, 2 at US Bank, that were centered on project to product transformation work, I saw a lot of pretty consistent patterns around a focus when we first started on Agile, AKA Scrum or Kanban or delivery frameworks, and not much on the stuff that's upstream from it. And so we saw small incremental gains in how we delivered, but as David Hussman liked to say back in the day, you basically Scrum allows you to build the wrong thing 2 weeks at a time. And so if you're trying to figure out what to build, the product management component to me is really what unlocked the most value for these large scale enterprises. And in Target, you can see it in the results. Our transformation effort helped, and by no means am I claiming sole accountability for said transformation effort. It's hundreds of people over multiple years, probably 4 years. And I actually see Gil on the call. He was doing some training for Target back when I was there as well. So I don't think I was in your class, Gil, but I know that you were there, and I know you had nothing but good street cred. So I appreciate it.
I don't think you were, no.
Yeah. But I was in the same dojo with Travis and company that I think you did work with back then. So, but essentially, as we started to evolve, if you actually, I was just talking about the outcomes. So if you go back to the Target deal, we basically were able to, and it's not a great goal to cut people, but at the end of the day, we were a pretty fat organization. So we cut about 35% of the headcount at HQ while doubling their ability to produce outcomes, and doubling stability and quadrupling the stock price over the last 4.5 years. And so this stuff definitely works. And the stuff that I'll share with you this evening is kind of based on some of the work that I did there. And then also a group of us kind of left Target, went to US Bank at similar times, and I spent 2 years there. They're still very much smack dab in the middle of their change, and haven't really applied all this stuff yet, but they're making good progress. And then a bunch of other feedback from other professionals. And so I will have posted these values online, gotten feedback from hundreds of people on kind of what resonates, what doesn't. And I've evolved them a little bit over the last couple of years. And so with that, I'll just kind of introduce you to the concepts that are here. And so again, the purpose behind these was or the reason they came to be is that as I looked around and looked at the Agile values and principles and how they were being used across our organization, I felt like we had a gap on, what's the cultural component that could be something that can be embraced by the business side of the house, the technology side of the house, the shared services side of the house, or operational types of teams. And how do we bring this to everybody and have kind of a universal point of view on what we value? And so these I truly try to use as an active filter to look through. So like literally, if you look at a couple of lenses in your glasses and look through them, in my mind, you can look through a process and evaluate whether or not it aligns with these values. You can look through and see human behavior and see if it's aligning with these values, so on and so forth. And so it starts kind of dead center with humility. And this comes out of a lot of experience in the traditional project world, where you spend 3 to 6 months justifying your idea, saying why it's the best thing in the world, how much money you need, the ROI that you're going to get in 5 years that nobody's ever going to check. And then once you get a check to go do the work, you're endlessly trying to protect the scope and make sure nothing changes in the world. And so that's obviously the kind of the old versus the new. But if we start with humility and say, hey, I got good ideas, but they're at least partially wrong most of the time, how does that change our behaviors, or how can it change our behaviors? And then how can you rally around it? So they're intended to be used as kind of active filters for our behaviors. And so the humility component is basically just assuming that we're wrong until we're proven right, and giving each other some grace, knowing that we're all in that same human boat. As soon as I find somebody that's got perfect ideas, I will change humility as the perfect place to start. But for now, it's going to be the place I start. The next set of values are centered around kind of the head and heart. So this is the empathy, passion, and curiosity. And I'll let you guys kind of read some of the subsets, but at a high level, in my mind, these are the things that help us create an environment where people are, number one, engaged, excited about the work that they do, and constantly improving. And so whether it's empathy for not only your external customer that you're building a product for, but in a lot of these large enterprises, a lot of our software is being built for internal customers. And we actually have you have captive audiences when it comes to the folks that you're serving in-house. At Target, part of my responsibility was to stand up kind of the product culture and product ways of working for upwards of 350 product owners across enterprise product teams. And so this is kind of where I started to be able to say, you know, from a mindset perspective, these are the things that I want to espouse before I ever start teaching you about product discovery or Scrum or anything else about delivering product. So that's the head and the heart. On the delivery side of things, 3 different values. These have changed a little bit over time with some really good feedback from some people that are a lot smarter than I am. A bias toward action. This kinship thing is built, something I got from Melissa Norcross, who's a PhD that did her PhD on basically psychological safety, as well as she took a lot of the Google Aristotle study stuff and basically took it to kind of the next level in her mind. And so kinship is the word that she uses to describe high-performing teams that have that shared purpose, vision, identity, set of values, et cetera. And then ruthless focus is on the tail end of this. This one, Jeff Patton weighed in and said, like, I think at one point it was something about the team first or something like that. And he basically said, all these values are too fluffy. You need a dark value. You need something that basically that says you got to have courage to say no and so on. So with his help, we added that to it and tweaked a few things. And then the bar beneath it, the little grayish blue bar behind it, is trust. And the reason it's a little bar there basically is that if you take it away, most of those circles, actually all of those circles, will likely fall to the bottom of the slide. And so it's essentially an absolutely foundational value that you can trust each other. Because if you can't trust each other, it's pretty hard to be humble and vulnerable with the fact that your ideas might be wrong. It's going to be harder to really be empathetic. It's going to be harder to have a sense of kinship with your teammates. All the above, right? And even the ruthless focus would be difficult because you don't trust each other on being honest about why you need to do work and so on. So first of all, I want to just step back and hopefully let you guys get off of mute and stop listening to me talk about these, and just see if there are any that kind of stand out to you, or just based on your current environment, based on your experience in the product world, which of these kind of resonate? Is there anything that doesn't resonate? Just have an open dialogue on what you see.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if these are product specific or they basically apply to all the work we do.
Yeah, I think they can absolutely apply to all the work we do. For me, I developed them in the context of product, but I completely agree. And it's actually you're stealing part of the punchline later on. Like in my mind, this stuff has been transformational for me as an individual as well. You can look at it in virtually every role that you play in life, whether it's, for me, it's as a dad, as a husband, as a partner at work, et cetera. How do you show up for people? And how do you show up in a community? And to me, you're absolutely right. I don't think these are restricted to product by any stretch.
You were asking if one stood out. For me, it's definitely ruthless focus, because that's the one I think that comes into play when you talk about something like a Scrum Master or an Agile coach focusing on fiduciary responsibility and knowing that that may mean that they'll get marched out the door. Or in the product sense, that you say you can't, what you're doing, what you need is important, but it's not our top priority. And again, depending on the politics, you may get marched out the door, or they may go along with it.
Yeah, and if you're in a spot where you can get marched out of the door for having some of those discussions, you've got other issues that are on here as well around trust and safety and so on. So
I've got a question. What you say at the bottom, if you can't align.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just reinforcing that, but sorry, somebody else was speaking.
Got it.
Yeah, Pete, I've got a question. one of the things that makes me nervous is, mindset first, and maybe I'm reading too much into this. And then if we are unable to align a shared set of values, we've already failed. Changing mindsets, I think, is the hardest thing to do, period, at all.
Mhm.
And like, is the expectation or
the voting was not anonymous, like we knew who was voting, versus this board is.
sorry, is the expectation like every team member displays empathy, passion, and curiosity? Because I don't know if I've ever been on a team where every team member shares that mindset. I mean, is
Yeah.
that a prerequisite for success?
No. So I think that the reality check, the way that I would put it is that as a large scale transformational change agent, as far as I'm concerned, my job is to always put the North Star out front of the desired state. We'll never arrive at a place where everybody operates against these values, but we can arrive at a place where we can agree that these are the things that we would like to demonstrate as a team as best we can as human beings. There's no way in the world that I do all these things from day to day. I just got into a spat with my boss earlier via text message because I hated the tone that came across, and he could have had a completely different tone, but he's a brand new boss for me for a few weeks. We don't have full trust yet, and I completely went out of my IQ and visited my horribly low EQ in that time. And so that's the human factor with this is absolutely realistic and absolutely real. And the statements down below are intentionally provocative because I want people to stop and think about the fact that this stuff matters as much, if not more so, than the tactic of how we operate. And it's the hardest stuff to change, to your point. And so without very specific attention and deliberate attention to say, what does it mean to have a humble process? What does it mean to be a humble leader? What does it mean to be a humble developer? What does it mean to be a humble, you take the sentence and put blanks in it for your ad libs for whether or not what value it is. I think every one of us has an opportunity to have kind of self-reflection on how am I showing up for the team and how am I showing up during a time of change, et cetera. So I'll stop there at risk of becoming a preacher on the spot, but that's the.
Thanks.
That's the
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and
I've also had folks that have had an allergy to humility and had it be something where like that's somehow having low self-esteem or not being confident with your ideas, and that has nothing to. Intellectual humility is being smart enough to recognize that your really good ideas are still going to be wrong a lot of the time. I think Marty Kagan is the one that talks about like the percentage of time really good product managers are spot on with their ideas, and it's like 35% or something, and that's for the good ones. And so it's to me the power there is being able to change how we operate. But all right, Karen.
This really surprised me when I heard someone say it many years ago, but he was saying that, more like the bias towards action, kinship, and focus comes first, and then you work on the empathy, passion, and curiosity. I think that you want to start out with leadership, but as someone said, you don't have that those ideal 4 components. And sometimes, well, most of the time, you have to work on building, the empathy, passion, curiosity, and humility. Oftentimes, let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like where you're headed. These things were created in the context of a larger coaching group, and so I bounced up a lot of those different values against what we were seeing from day to day with our teams, and so that's I think we tried to tackle them holistically at once. But I could see where you're coming from on if you can't move them all at the same time, how do you prioritize and kind of figure out where to start?
yeah, and I think I think that's a excellent point, because I've been on very successful teams where we've had all of these at one time or another, but I don't think I've ever been on a team where we've had all of them at once. So I think it fluctuates. I think sometimes you move back and forth between them, and it requires some focus across the board.
Yeah, I love it.
So
Richard, you had your hand up.
Yeah, do some of these values here really inherent in the person and the type of person that they are versus a teachable item? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a good question. I don't know that I've really given it a ton of thought to date, so I like the question. To me, the stuff on the right feels very teachable to me. I think humility is actually teachable when it's intellectual humility. They can be confident human beings and still be smart enough to know that their idea may not be perfect. The empathy, passion, curiosity, I think you could probably have some good debates about nature, nurture on some of those things. And I think in the corporate setting, I've seen us be able to help bring some people along on the curiosity, like shift over to a growth mindset. But in order to do that, you're helping people that are in a fixed mindset move to a growth mindset, and by its very nature, a fixed mindset is difficult to change. But that's that one is there. And passion, I don't like, either you're passionate or you're not about what you're doing. My encouragement for people that become product owners and they get a lot of the transformation folks end up being business analysts that get converted into a product owner. And if you're ending up in a space where you're not excited about the domain, you're not excited about your job, then you shouldn't be in your job. And it is what it is for that one. And empathy, I think you're right in that, or assuming that you had a hypothesis with that, the empathy component is, I've seen some pretty not so empathetic folks. So great question. Keith?
Yes, thanks, Pete. The second item under ruthless focus. I work in the federal space, insert laughter now. And that second bullet is such a struggle, especially in an environment where, those organizational level champions and support are just so important. And they're often lacking because if someone's been exposed to agile, it's been, a one-off or two-off effort that wasn't really done right without adequate training and all. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts, or if you've had any experiences with that in any type of government setting.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm working with the state of Minnesota, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Department of Human Services, to transform from a project model to a product model. And so I'm just learning. I feel like I'm at the beginning of that journey. I've been with them for about 5 months, and I'm helping about quarter time on strategy. And then I've got a full-time coach that's helping with a few pilot teams and so on. It is definitely a unique animal on like all of the stuff that has to do with prioritization, how things come down from the legislature, how things are funded is different. Labor unions that correspond with current jobs, so that if you try to change somebody's accountabilities, there's a big hubbub about it. There's a lot of unique things that I'm seeing in government. And so I'm trying to actually develop kind of a circle of friends, so to speak, that are in that government space. So if you ever want to connect after the fact and have another little community of practice, I'd be happy to have folks from different states come together and talk about how we're doing it at a government level.
That would be awesome. I mean, I've been trying to exist in the federal space, the judicial branch, and make some progress with agility for, going on 5 or 6 years. And that second bullet over there is what often kills good ideas more than anything else.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Anna, you got your hand up.
Sure. I wanted to touch up on empathy.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things there that I always find interesting. there's a difference sometimes in being empathetic and actually exercising empathy. I have had some team members who are very empathetic naturally, but sometimes just get burned down by the constant workload, customer support issues, interacting, where you sometimes forget that you're working with people who are just experiences problems or in a different space, and sometimes stepping back and remembering that you need to exercise empathy is important. And another thing, that it could also be very contagious. If some team members do exercise empathy on the team, it really is that teachable moment to others that it's spreading throughout the team.
I love that. And I love the contagious nature, not only with empathy, but honestly, with all of these things. You start looking at folks that are used to having a fixed mindset, but they're surrounded with people that are reading books, checking out the latest video, sharing content, sharing impact on what they're learning, so on and so forth. That becomes something where there's a positive peer pressure that comes with that learning and going, oh, crap, I'm falling behind because I'm not absorbing the latest stuff. And honestly, it may honestly have been a one-off experience that I may never experience again. But the team that we had at Target during this transformation effort truly personified. I mean, I can give you names and faces that light up every one of these circles on our team that were kind of, to your point, almost like the lead without having a stated lead for that type of a value. You could tell who was kind of personifying the most. Gil, I saw you came off of or came on to video. Did you have something?
No, I would concur with this. I mean, I mostly taught classes there, but I cross paths with many people, and I would definitely say this, and I think that has definitely been part of their successful move. In addition to it being, thoroughly strategically supported.
Absolutely, yeah. By no means does, if I have an organization that magically espouses these values but doesn't know what the hell they're doing in their industry, they're going to be a really great team to work with, but they probably won't succeed. And so it's fun. And part of the reason that the other reason that these were created in the first place was that I see a gap between senior leadership, who's off kind of buying transformation services for increased revenue, better time to market, all those types of things. Then you got the lower level folks that are normally pretty excited about, hey, I've got some empowerment in this system. I'm actually going to be able to solve customer problems with my products, et cetera. But you've got a lot of folks in between in the leadership layers that are often referred to as the frozen middle or the pressurized middle, to be more empathetic for them. All those types of folks that are really, in my mind, the ones that drive cultural change for their teams. Because if you look at the reason I think that our team was demonstrating these values is that our leader demonstrated these values, and she expected it of us as a team. And so a lot of my focus with these values has been on kind of that middle management to executive coaching layer to say, what does it look like for you as a leader of people to demonstrate these capabilities? And so with that, I'm gonna pause our discussion because I'm gonna give you guys a chance to talk to each other a little bit more. Let me get the mural link so I can give it to you guys. 1 second, sorry for the pause. We're gonna do, let's see, we've got, how many folks do we have on right now? 32. So we'll do, let's try to do like 8 breakouts, so like 4 people in each one, Steve. So if we do, and then I will basically, you'll see this mural here in just a second.
Okay, how many breakout rooms? I'm sorry.
Let's do 8.
8. All right.
Oh, I scared 3 people away by saying breakout. They're all running for the hills.
We'll do 7.
There you go. Yes, Keith, join LinkedIn.
How long do we want the breakout rooms?
All right, so I just sent, I just put the link in the chat, so you guys can click on that. What I want you to do is, we've got the mural, I'll show you as well. So before you go, you can see what the heck you're doing. The fair warning is that this is the first time I've tried this exercise, so hopefully it'll work for us. Whichever breakout room you end up with, you'll have a big number here, then you can work together on this particular portion of the mural. And so what I want you to do is just go through and discuss the questions. Pick one or two of these values. You don't have to do the whole thing, but talk about current state in your org, and then do some brainstorming together on, how might we do something even better as we go forward around some of these values. And so this is more of a process-based view of the world, and we'll talk about other ways that we can try it in the future. But I just want to give you about 10 minutes to have that discussion if you are willing and able, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's see if we got any questions about it.
Okay, so when you go into your breakout room, if you look in the upper left, it will tell you what room number you are in. So whatever room number you are in, go to that board, and each of these sections is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just,
and right now I am assuming that you can go in and basically it's a single click on any one of these sticky notes and you can just start typing. So yep. I created a bunch of empty ones. So if you don't know how to use Mural, you can kind of quickly move around. The way that I'd recommend navigating is basically down here in the right-hand corner. You can kind of scroll around to get to the right spot, or you can go up into this upper side and go to the outline. And then this will take you to any of the individual teams. So if you're on team 4, just click team 4, team 7, etc. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, maybe.
Okay, so what are you guys going to do? Who wants to repeat back? What are you going to do when you get in the room?
Look in the upper left.
Tell what team you're on.
Find out what team you're on. Discuss the question.
How do you tell what team you're on?
You'll see in the upper left-hand screen of the breakout room, it'll tell you what room number you're in. 1 through 6.
Perfect.
All right, everybody ready? Cool, this is going to be fun.
Fire away. Got 10 minutes.
All right, 10 minutes. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. Breakout room for 10 minutes, not 30. Okay.
It was like halfway through, or like 75% of the way through a question, just when we had to come back. But I will circle back with you on your question. But I would just love to hear from you guys at the moment on just 1 or 2 people to share a little bit about the discussion that you guys had. And I'm going to hop back into the mural and just kind of, if you say what number you are, I'll go to your particular mural and we can take a look. I will share my screen here in a sec.
It looked like there were a lot of great conversations going on when I popped into the different rooms and from the things I've seen.
Awesome.
Who'd like to go first? Does someone from team 1 want to say something?
Yeah, sure. Although we didn't put anything into our mural board, so sorry about that, Pete. But we did have a really strong conversation. We definitely love the 3 on the left, the empathy, curiosity, and passion. But we did struggle with ruthless focus, and partially the disconnect between ruthless focus and the 2 bullet points below it.
Sure. Say more.
Ruthless focus. So much of everything in business is trade-offs.
Yep.
So ruthless focus can cause corporations to do things like Facebook, where they sacrificed everything for the ruthless focus of engagement. And
Sure.
without those trade-offs, that led them down a bad path. However, the bullet points below it, we loved it, like having the courage to make decisions, saying no sometimes, loved it, knowing that we can't serve everyone, loved it. So we weren't 100% sold on the ruthless focus title, but we love the 2 bullet points.
I love it. Hang on 1 second. I've just accidentally left, I think. Let me go back in here.
Oh, Dominic, is it possible it wasn't the ruthless focus, but it was the focus on the wrong set of values? The wrong.
Yeah, difficult. Yeah, difficult to say. Good point, though. Yes.
Well, I was the other person in the room and I would say no. We didn't like the word ruthless because it was focused on one aspect at the expense of others. And really, at this point, for enterprises to move forward in a VUCA world, there needs to be a different focus at the enterprise level. So ruthless is too going forward with blinders on. I think it's just mislabeled. I think there's another word that would be better. We were tossing around words when the room closed.
Okay.
Got it.
And that's interesting. I'll pitch a different idea. And this is, I think this sort of shows how you kind of need all of them to work in tangent, right? Like if you don't have, I mean, on there, you know, Pete has empathy, right? And all right, using the Facebook example, if I'm not in touch with empathy for my customers, then yes, I can have ruthless focus on the wrong thing. But I look at, like, you know, you could still not be empathetic and also not have ruthless focus, right? And that's not going to help you too much, right? Like,
yep.
Well, we want to do everything for everybody, you know. So I almost look at, like, well, if you don't have ruthless focus, or if you don't have any of these, what's the counter? And is that a better space to be in than what this is aspiring to?
I love what you just said, Jason, about the relationship of them together, because that is definitely truth to me. And I don't, because I think honestly you could overemphasize any one of these things. It's almost like an operational value stream. If you look at something from idea to release and you hyper focus on fixing one subset of the overall value stream, you got this sub-optimized thing that one part of it's working really well, but the overall flow is still slow because you haven't fixed the whole thing, or you haven't at least looked across the whole thing. So I love your point.
And in the chat, Anna was kind enough to post, is it possible that radical focus might be more appropriate? Radical focus, and she posted a book here as well in the chat. There's a great link.
It's part of the reason it's not radical focus is because it is a book and it already does have its own.
But Christina Vodke is so amazing. She puts it really well. I think the way I see ruthless focus is really concentrating and making a commitment to a particular set of goals, and that's where you have to say no. Right. Yeah. So you're only deciding as a company to concentrate on this set of goals. And once you made a decision, sort of a disagree and commit, you have to stay focused on that and drive those points to execution together. Otherwise, then you start spreading thin. This is where problems starting to happen. This is where delayed releases of projects starting to happen. And it's why ruthless is really kind of combines all of that, saying no, but then staying, disagree, commit, and stay on focus.
I like it. Thank you. And it is a good reference. At the end of the day, what I like about these types of discussions is that I'm not dictating that these have to be the values that you rally around, but I am suggesting that your team would benefit from rallying around a balanced, holistic set of values that can help drive how you focus on things. And so if your team looks at this and says, ruthless focus, what the hell? That sounds like a militant dude that I don't want to hang out with. Change it. It's all good. As long as you can align to it. Again, starting with humility, I don't pretend that these are the values that the whole world should be operating under. These are the ones that I've used and that I've got experience with. But the beauty of this is that I want you to try to think about the larger framework and think about, can I actually have values that then I can start translating to behaviors at different levels of detail too. So if you think about where else these things could apply, we used an example that looked about process, but what about by role? What about outside of work, to the point that Gil was making earlier on, how do I want to show up, or what does it mean to show up with these values? And then how does that impact culture before it's all said and done. And so that's the spirit of it. Honestly, the exercise of trying to translate them into behaviors is, you guys saw that you guys were kind of guinea pigs, and ultimately that's, I'm exploring different ways to try to help people translate them into something that's practical for them from day to day. Because I think it's really, really important that these don't become just a slide that sits on the wall or a plaque that's on the company wall, but that it's truly something that's an active conversation with your teams over time to say, how are we showing up? So if you're looking at an agile coach or a product coach, are you looking just at velocity and a variety of other Scrum-based metrics, or are you actually looking at how is the team showing up for each other? What does our culture look like? Is leadership helping remove obstacles for our teams? All those types of fun things that come along with that. Does that make any sense?
I think it makes great sense. You do have to take a larger approach, and we always end up in that discussion about metrics. Yes, you have metrics. Yes, we need to measure metrics. Yes, we need to see some improvement there. But what is the story they're truly telling? And Gil writes, should we focus on? Should it be extreme focus? I think they're all good phrases and good words. Whatever resonates with the teams. I think these are all good points.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that suggestion, Gil. This, I wanted to show you guys, again, this is kind of in partner. So man does not live on values alone, right? So they have to translate to work. And so I wanted to show you guys this, not for any other reason, but just to hopefully plant a couple more seeds in your head when you think about how do you support a bunch of teams having to be aligned with how they work together, language, vocabulary, all that kind of fun stuff. And so this is also something, the concept of a toolbox has been something that I've used at Target. I used it at US Bank. I've used it at a couple other firms that I've supported from a consulting perspective. And they all look different because every company is different. The context is different. But we essentially, for folks that we're helping transform into new ways of working, we're basically saying a lot of these folks came from checklist organizations to a place where now we're asking them to think for themselves. And so for some of you that we're talking fixed mindset versus growth mindset, I think one of the ways that we kind of nudge people toward the growth mindset is to starting to trust them to say, hey, you've got to, here's the types of problems that you have to solve in your new job. And here are some curated tools for you to use as a starting point for you to start solving those problems. But then saying, this is guidance, this is not governance. And so if you have a different tool that solves the same problem, great, sub it out. If you don't like definition and discovery labeled the way they are and you want them reversed, because it's often a request from different people, great, flip them around, it's all good. But having some type of thing that aligns you above and beyond your values, but also in the ways that you show up in tactical ways and doing the work is super, super helpful for teams when you're trying to get alignment across multiple teams. And so we use this, again, a couple different large companies. At Target, we probably had on average about 550 unique visitors to this site. And so it operated similarly to what like the SAFE website does, where you click on an icon, takes you to an abstract of what is this thing? Why do I do it? Here's an example, et cetera. And so we had about 550 unique users every month at Target. At US Bank, we were up to more like 2,200 when I left, unique users coming into this. And so as they were trying to learn new ways of working, it's a great way for our coaches to get aligned on how we talked about this stuff and what our starting point was. And then it was also a great resource for other people to come in and use after when they didn't have a coach accessible to them. So this is just kind of a bonus topic that always seems to be married up with the values in my world. And I think that's about all I've got for you for now. I was going to do a Slido thing, but I don't think it's necessary based on the number of people that we've got on the call. I've also got my contact info, and so this will be sent out to you. Actually, Steve, I'll send you another copy of this because I changed a couple of things. I'll put it in the PDF format and send it to you, and then you can distribute it to anybody on the meetup site. And then this was kind of my backstory, and then how we approach transformation at ThreeBridge, kind of thinking about it holistically. But open for additional questions if you've got any. Otherwise, we're pretty much at 5:30, and that's what we promised to finish up by. So.
Now, Kiat and ThreeBridge, you guys are now one company. What happened there?
Yeah, so when I joined Kiat back in November of 2020, I knew that we'd be merging with another organization. I just didn't know it was ThreeBridge. But basically, we had a single private equity firm purchase us both at the same time and bring us together. And we have complementary capabilities. So you've got Kiat that was primarily business focused, and you had ThreeBridge that had a much larger technology contingent. And so some of my concerns when I joined Kiat were like, I don't think we have holistic skills to do project to product transformation. We need DevOps, we need technical architecture and those types of things. And so thankfully that merger has kind of given us the full set of capabilities that we bring to bear. So it's been it's hard, but good to merge.
That's awesome. And if anybody wants to post your LinkedIn profile, please do. Post it in here in the chat. So also we had somebody suggest a job posting. So we posted that in here. If you're familiar with Agile 2 and want to hang out with Cliff Berg, I'm just going to post that again. So there's an opportunity for that one there. I posted that again if you're interested. So please reach out. Now, of the seven, everybody hold up or type, what was your favorite one? Oh, I forgot. I can create a poll right here. Can't I? So I'm going to add a question real quick. I don't know how to do meetup polls. I've never done one. Is that wrong? I probably should have. There were three sections in there. There were the first section, then there was the middle part, and then there was the delivery. Who liked which section first and why?
I know personally, and I'm biased because I've made them, but humility to me is the one that gets me excited, simply because I think it's the largest change agent of the seven, as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. That if you are willing to show up and co-create with each other, and each of you acknowledges at the beginning that your idea is not perfect, I don't think I've had more fun in my lifetime than working with people that can show up that way. And so that one is like practically verklempt, have the single tear rolling down the cheek type of happy.
Got to agree with that every project I've gone into, even if deep inside I thought I knew the exact answer, you want to leave the door open for other ideas. You want people to say, to think that you're not set in your ways, that you're open to their ideas. And it is more than just a technique. It's a way of life that everyone should feel they could, give you their point of view. So I'm right there with them, humility.
Yeah, and there's also the situation where you're working with a group of people and not everybody agrees. Well, guess what? If not everybody agrees, then that means somebody at some point is slightly not as right as everybody else.
Yep.
So we all have to accept the fact that maybe from my point of view and the information I have, I might be 100% right. And Randy, maybe from the point of view and the information that you have, you might be 100% right, and we're disagreeing. So having that discussion, I think, is very important.
I like this as a reflection point, right? Like I think some of the earlier points, though, you're not going to move everybody in all the directions in all seven, but you can create a reflective space so the organization can recognize where they are with respect to each one. They can recognize what they're missing, what the delta is. Hey, we don't have empathy. What does that look like in our organization? It looks like a bunch of problems that we're solving that are only problems for us, not for our customers.
Love it.
So I think that's pretty cool. And then they can decide, right? You can decide where you want to go after that reflection, right?
Yeah.
Where are you weak in? Where do you want to get stronger in?
It may be the cast, but you just gave me goosies, so I love it.
Jason
think
has
I
a
like-
tendency to do that. So he's always got some great ideas.
I think if you want to do anything truly creative, curiosity is more important. I mean, if you're building on an existing product family, then yeah, humility probably is the right one. But if you want to be really out of the box, come up with something brand new in terms of product, then I think curiosity may be more important. Now, some of the people who focused on that curiosity weren't all that likable because they weren't particularly humble.
Sure.
But you need a variety of people with different perspectives in order to get a product from ideation into production.
Well, and to your point, a lack of curiosity is probably what has caused most of the Fortune 500 companies that have died in the last 20 years to die, because they had everything else they needed, except they weren't curious about their current market.
I would also argue that they had arrogance, because that's ultimately they got comfortable in, they were the market leader in X, Y, or Z, and they were immovable. Of course, there's going to be film forever, says Kodak. Of course, there's going to be movie stores for the rest of our lives, says Blockbuster, and so it's they're definitely connected, and I think that's the message Jason said earlier that I completely agree with. It's great to have something that resonates with you, and I asked you to figure out which ones resonated with you. But at the end of the day, it's kind of that how they're interwoven together. That's the secret sauce that really makes for powerful teams. So love it. Love it, love it, love it.
I absolutely love these 7 items. I think they're great, and they help provide a nice focus and framework to work on culture.
Oh, thank you very much. And I really appreciate the feedback as well. I'm working on a book about these things, and I haven't written before. So I've got a framework that had a coach help me with as far as the structure of the book and so on. And so this is honestly discovery work for me as well, on how the stuff resonates and how it lands with folks that are doing the work every day. So I really, really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, and more importantly, hear from you on what you think about them. So.
That is awesome. Anna, Dominic, any final thoughts? I can't wait to see the book.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, didn't mean to put everybody on the spot. So how do you guys think Pete did tonight?
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
Great. Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome, Pete.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. We got
Very interesting. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like this approach. I really like this framework. I think it helps people wrap their heads around it. What is culture? What is product culture? What are some of the things we should focus on? I really like it. So I think it's fabulous.
Love it. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate it. If you can leave the Zoom going for a minute or two, I want to go back and grab all of your LinkedIn links and connect with you too. So
yeah, we will do that. Also, I think Pete is going to be talking on a podcast soon for Agile World. I think maybe you guys have seen this Agile World News a little bit. So maybe if you haven't yet, well, let's see. Jason Hall has been on there. So, we can have some other wonderful people. I know Dominic's going to be on there sooner or later. I just need to track him down. So
love it.
I think we're going to have a debate on whether teams should even sprint or not. So that could be a very fun topic. I know he's very passionate about that. So I want to thank everybody. It's great to see you all again. I always feel so honored and blessed to see everybody here with everything going on. It's great. And Rich, you're coming all the way from Connecticut, aren't you?
Yes, sir. That's me.
There you go. So it's so great to see some locals and some people from around the country. It's awesome.
I've been trying to drag Sam in. He's been a little busy. I also forwarded this to Oslam, but she's also kind of tied up. So we'll try to get the group together.
Oh yeah, I mean, people have like newborns that are less than 2 months old. That what are they going to do? Come on,
Right?
those kids should be able to take care of themselves by now. It's 2 months. Come on.
Yeah, right.
And I know Sam has been extremely busy with his new role, so it's awesome. Thank you, everyone.
As always, thank you, Steve. Bye-bye.
Great to see you,
Bye,
Karen.
everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.